stand?
Wow, yes, I'm just gonna, I'm on light duty.
Is Mark coming? No.
Up here.
If you want to, just at the end, you would welcome questions. Just have them state their name.
Yeah.
Microphone.
Have the microphones working?
Okay. Yep.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We called a town hall meeting because as everyone's aware of the situation that we got ourselves into and what we're doing to try to correct that situation that we're in. This is something that my people have worked very hard on for 10 months with the state auditor, with different communities on how to, what it boils down is to how to pay our debt that's been created since 2012. We can give you numbers, we will, and after Frank is with the environmental engineering, we contracted to have a evaluation of our wastewater and water operations to pay our debts. And this was on the instructions of the state auditor, which comes down and visits us every week to see if we're following procedure or we're making any progress, doing what we're supposed to be doing. So I'm going to turn the meeting over to Frank so he can do a presentation for you, and then we'll field questions that you all have afterwards.
Again, my name is Frank Leon. I'm with a firm called Environmental Engineering, and we are wastewater treatment plant and water plant operators and engineers. I've been doing this for about 42 years. What we were contracting to do was take a look at all the circumstances around this Sterling situation and basically do a compilation of what the real situation was as it related to revenue and expense and what, if any, there was to be a deficit between those two. And that was then turned into how much you have to raise the rates to cover your debts. And so that was our overall charge. And we, for the last 6 months or so, been working with Courtney and all the rest of the people trying to get accurate information on previous revenues, on the actual loans that the village has outstanding, on the actual debt service that those loans require annually. We've also looked at the operation of the water and wastewater plant to see what it would really take to work to run these facilities, and to see that, you know, that they would be run efficiently within a budget that seemed reasonable.
I can't hear him.
Unfortunately, the basic conclusion is that right now the economics of your two systems are that you will have almost limited, if any, control over your expenses because the vast majority of it is debt, not expense. In other words, we go into a lot of communities and we find out that maybe they can save some money, cut some staff, you know, reduce your utilities, that kind of thing. And in those cases, we can save some money. What we found in the roughest form is that the plants are being run now very efficiently as it relates to the money involved. We even aren't sure that they can continue to be run at the low cost they're being run at. But what we know is you can't afford to allow $16 million in new facilities to be, you know, to have no maintenance, to allow them to deteriorate when you're going to be paying for these things to well in the 2030s and 2040s. So I'd like to walk you through the numbers. I think it'd be best if you let me finish, because I may answer a question that you asked now 2 minutes later. But if anybody sees something and they just can't wait, please just let me know. I'll stop. We'll answer the question and try to move on from there. Whatever makes you guys feel the most comfortable. So, you want to turn the lights on? Oh, I don't know. You want to do that? Sure. You want to start with the pledge, Mayor? Is that right?
Yes. Everyone, please stand. do the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all so much. Be seated.
I'm sorry, I should turn it off to you. We're seated. Okay, now I'm going to turn them off.
First, some general background, and as we pull this together, some things jump out at you pretty quickly. The village has approximately 700 customers on their existing water and sewer system. And under the current water rates and sewer rates, that generates about $900,000 a year in revenue. The village decided and constructed a 1 million gallon per day wastewater plant and borrowed about $6.1 million to build it, with payments that began in 2015. The village then constructed a 1 million gallon per day water treatment plant in New Wellfield, borrowing about $9.6 million, with payments beginning January of this year, 2018. There has been no rate increase, I don't believe, in the village since about 2015, and it was relatively minor. The one conclusion we draw very quickly is that both the water and wastewater treatment plants are sized to serve well in excess of the current required treatment capacity for the village. Now, there's good and there's bad to that. The good part of that is you can handle growth. If somebody walks in tomorrow and says we want to build 3,000 homes, you can do it. The bad part about it is until that growth occurs, the existing customers have to share the cost of the debt. And that's just a fact. So what you've got is two facilities that are well in excess of what would be necessary to treat your existing customers. And that's playing into what's going to happen with rates here, because your 700 customers trying to pay the debt on a system that probably could handle 2,000 customers. And maybe more than that. So just picture that as you're thinking about this, as to why the situation is what it is. This is an accurate summary of all the loans the village now has outstanding on its water and sewer system. Now, you remember I said about the amount they borrowed, the 9.1 and the 6. These translate into what the annual payments are on the debt for the various things you borrowed against. So, for instance, when you see the number, the second one down, 7243, is the new water treatment plant in Wellfield. The annual payments, every year the village has to pay $452,172 to retire the debt on that water plant. And that loan does not expire until 2047. If you look down at the wastewater, 6339, the first line on the wastewater, the annual payment for the wastewater plant is $305,220. You started paying for that in 2015, and you will continue to pay that annually until the year 2034. The other loans are loans that have gone along the way for various projects required in the system. The bottom line, though, is your total annual debt service payments are $815,700. And the village has practically no flexibility in making those payments. The state agency that has lent that money has signed contracts by the village. They're at various interest rates, and they are required to be payments to be made every January 1st and every July 1st of every year till the term of those loans is paid off. Those loans, because of the nature of the agency for which they were borrowed, are not even callable. And what that means is you cannot refinance them. You couldn't even go somewhere else and try to borrow the money at less money and pay off the loan. It's not allowed. So $815,700 a year, nothing council can do to make that number change. And that's a tremendous amount of debt for a system of the size that yours is. We then went through and we looked at the debt service and the operating costs for each of the two systems and how much revenue you were collecting with the current rates. And if we start with water, if you remember from the last page, debt service is $500,200. Operating costs for the system are about $264,500 a year. That includes all staff, all utilities, all testing, all EPA requirements, and is actually quite reasonable compared to expenses that were made in the past, but we've used that number to sort of a set a baseline. Okay? That means that for the water system alone, you must spend $764,700 a year. You will collect during 2018, or for a 12-month period under the existing rates, about $458,200. Therefore, just doing the math, you will be $306,000 a year short in terms of what you have to pay versus what you get in on water. On sewer, the debt service is the $315,500. Operations are $229,800. Again, staff, testing, utilities, EPA requirements, and all those things. Total cost $545,300. Projected revenue $429,100. You will have an annual deficit of $116,200. So this is all this is math, but it's taken a lot of time to pull it together with everybody to see where it's at. But it's only math, and it just defines the problem. It's like, okay, we're 422,700 roughly short right now, and we will be that short every year. Okay, and we're in October of this year, and there's a payment coming due in basically in December for January. And when that payment is made, the system will basically have pretty close to a zero balance. So in order to meet your financial obligations, we have to generate enough revenue to increase what the village receives a year by the total of the $422,700, so that you can meet the obligations you have. And this is our impression as operators. There's no place to save money. With the loan's so big, that's what the real, issue is. And you can talk about, gee, can we save $20,000 somewhere? And that's not a bad thing to try to do. But $20,000, would barely make a dent. You can see in a $500,000 deficit. So all we've tried to do then is to think, okay, how much? What does it take to make this math work? And let's see here. Just, again, I'm not going to take my time. This is your existing rate structure in the village. Everybody probably is aware of it, at least as what it relates to for your own bill. But those are the rate structures for residential inside and outside, for commercial inside and outside, and for industrial. That is the rate structure around which you yield about the $900,000 we talked about. What we've then done is the math that, okay, under the existing situation, with the same number of customers, how do we have to adjust, and what's the best way to adjust the rates so that you yield the $1,325,000, which is what you need to pay your debt starting in 19. What we came up with was that you have to, again, for residential inside, you have to add $29 to the current base rate for water, which means if you paid $20.40 before, you will have to pay $49.40 for water, the base rate. And it goes down the line. For the outside the village, it goes from $21.85 to $50.85. For the commercial, it goes from $21.25 to $50.25. In the industrial category, in order to guarantee that the revenue exists, the adjustment is not made to the base rate, because that's for the first, I think, 10,000 gallons, is that right, Misty? So what we've suggested is, based on existing usage, how much do you have to rate the per 1,000 gallon rate moving forward for the industrial users? And it requires basically a $500.85 raise in the per 1,000 cost for water, and $4.20 per 1,000 gallons after the base rate in sewer. Those rates, if implemented, and if collected, give you the revenue you need to meet your obligations to the state of Ohio and to keep the operation and maintenance of your plant going at a very minimal level. We're trying to get to the point where we're above water, okay? This next page is somewhat of a guess. I don't deny it, but I thought it would be at least interesting to people if they can get inside their own head. Everybody pays a different water rate every month and sewer rate, basically. But just to give you a feel for how would it impact the monthly rates, if you live in town and we find that the typical user, not probably no existing user, but the typical user pays about $39 for water and $33 for sewer. So what is that? $72 a month is about a typical combined water and sewer bill. With the same usage, starting if this rate increase changes, your bill will be $113. Residential outside, commercial, the same way. Whatever you feel that and the rates have been spread across everybody equally and fairly. We think as fairly as it can be, given that it's a rate increase. So that's what council's been laboring with. That's what we've been talking with the state auditor about, is what do we do to get ourselves enough money to cover what we owe you? Just like you would do with your own budget at home, the village has got to find that money somewhere because they've made it, the obligations were signed and made. And those were made, actually, I'm guessing that this was all pretty much in shape by about 2015 or 16. Now, the due payments didn't come due on the water plant till this year, but the loan was signed and he started drawing money against it back that far ago. So these were set in stone a while back. Okay, there are additional considerations that probably have to be dealt with. You're going to recognize them when you hear them. You're not going to really want to hear it, but you're going to recognize them. The money we're talking about in those rates does not establish any reserve account for the village. And a properly run utility has to have some kind of reserve account for an emergency. A line break that no one knew was going to happen. Some pump blows up. But, you know, it would be typical when you're doing your race that say, here's what I need. Now, I really should also collect about, and we said ideally you take about 10% of your operating budget to try to cover surprises. So that's an issue we have got to deal with that. If that's tried to be put on the rates that are list, it would be about $3.30 a month per user for the water and about $3 for the sewer. A second issue that we cannot ignore, and this one is extremely tough. There are still things that have to be done to the village utility system. We spent time with the staff and everybody saying, okay guys, we just spent on this money, you got all this stuff, everything else is good, is that right? And the list started coming out. For instance, there was testing done, or an inspection done on the water tower. When was that? Billy, do you remember?
13.
13.
That showed there were actually holes boring into the water tower. So everybody in town knows that somewhere shortly we're probably going to have a new water tower. And the list is there. There's water line replacements. There are some real needs for new water meters. The new water treatment plant is very high tech. But high tech also implies that certain things in the operations are going to cost more, and that including these RO reverse osmosis membranes that have to be replaced every 5 years. On the sewer side, there needs to be some work because EPA is finding that we're getting a lot of water in the system. So we've made a list. There is no money in the village now to do other capital improvement projects. Like I said, we're gonna have a zero balance. So the question is, what would be prudent, or, you know, if you don't put something in the rates for capital improvements, then you can't do capital improvements. I mean, that's just the way it is. And we've tried to identify that if you put an extra $1.30 per month per user in what we would call a capital improvements fund, you could build a couple $100,000 to $300,000 project if you had to build one. Now, we've been trying to work with the village to try, and we just submitted a grant application, and now this is for grant funds now, to maybe try to spread this out and not make the village pay for all these things. And we hope that at some point that'll be successful to some level. But we have to think about that because there's always some kind of local share. So I guess if we're in summary, we're sitting here, you've got a fixed amount of money, the math works as to how you have to do the rates to get that amount of money. There's going to be other things that are going to happen, and there's just no looking around that, and so there's got to be some thinking about what's going to happen in the future. And the state auditor is obviously looking for a rate increase that in terms of the lenders, you can pay your bills. And these are the best numbers that I can find. These are accurate. I mean, I know there's been some struggling to get to the right numbers or the accurate numbers and finding the paperwork and doing that. These are the numbers. I believe this is very true. And here's the summary. You're $422,000 a year too short. To achieve your revenue goals, we're going to have to increase water by about 60 to 70% and sewer by about 35 to 40%. There's going to have to be some discussion of capital improvements and additional considerations. And then there's this discussion of the fact that you have to deal with your financial legal counsel before you prioritize any race, and I know council's doing that right now. So that's what I know. I can go back to any of those. We can talk about the details. We can talk about anything you like. I'll be glad to try to answer questions. And hopefully this has got everybody at least up to speed on what the existing circumstances are. Want to turn the lights on?
Ask them to come to the microphone and state their name.
Questions we have might be helpful to answer.
When you mentioned the grant, was that your agency who wrote that grant, or are you saying our council?
No, we worked with Courtney to try to write this first grant. It was the first one. It was one we recognized and thought, well, why don't we try to get one? We'll see what happens. You know, it was because we recognized some projects need to be done. You have no money, so we'll try. We'll know what happens. We'll know after the first of the year if we got it. If we did, that'll be great. That was not meant there to be some kind of promise or make things sound better tonight. But we've always found that if you do your due diligence, you should be able to get some cost of most projects you build somehow funded by grant funds. We just believe that. That's all I do, by the way, in our company. That's all I do is the grant funding. We work for communities all around this area and over the state of Ohio. And we just believe that. And that's how you get a project built without adding a terrible debt burden to the community, is you try to defray some of the costs with grants. Both of these projects were done with 100% loan money. So you're paying the full boat for these. You're just paying the full $17 million over 30 years.
I thought there was a grant involved.
No.
Oh, ma'am,
No, there's not.
There was a dollar.
There's not true. No grants.
Why weren't they applied for?
Again, this is before my time. I mean, I'm just telling you that we're doing it now because we think you should, and our experience would be that would have been a good thing to try to do. But I can only tell you that if I look at the cost of your projects and I look at where the money is and what your loan payments are, you used all loan money.
Yep. It's true.
What kind of interest rates are on the loans?
I got them right here.
Yep.
One comment about the last meeting was that people watching online, they couldn't hear the questions being asked. So that's why they put the microphone there, and that's if you need to get closer to it if you have a question, but they can't hear what the questions are.
Yeah. Or maybe I can, if you guys have questions, I'll just hand the microphone to you. How about that?
Good idea. Good idea.
These interest rate loans,
And just state your name, sorry.
these loans, the interest rates vary. For instance, if you go from the top, that water tower replacement design is at 3.03%.
Yeah.
The second one is for the water plant in Wellfield. A portion of it, like a third, is at 0.96%, and 2/3 of it is at 2.96%. The third one, which is storage tank painting, 1.09%. The Columbus Main Street project, 2%. The wastewater project, %0. That's good.
They're all good, I mean, all things considered.
Oh, yeah, they were pretty much market rate at the time. They're not hideous.
And they're fixed, right?
They are fixed. They are fixed. The High Street, yeah, that was at 1.15%. And those don't change, so at least the borrowings are at rates that are not onerous.
Thank you.
Next question?
I have a question. First, I'd like to say I understand that most of the people on the council and the mayor, you've inherited a problem that you didn't create, and I appreciate that. My question is that, say, an apartment complex with 50 residents, that the apartment complex pays for the water, they're just going to be paying the same amount as I am? 22 or whatever it is, the increase?
I'm not sure of your question, George.
Well, my thing is, shouldn't the charge be based on how much you use?
It is, sir. Yeah, let me answer that. With a 50-unit carton complex, their rate for the base first 1,000 gallons is going to go up the same as yours.
Each one.
$29 a month.
Yes, each.
But then they'll pay for all the wastewater, so theoretically they'll pay for 50 times what you pay for the volume.
Well, okay, say a house that uses 10 units.
Yeah.
I'm going to be paying the same amount as that person that's using 10 units when I'm using 500 gallons a month?
Yes. No, you're going to pay the unit. You're going to pay the unit. What's the second unit? 1,000 gallons, right?
$4.90.
You'll pay $4.90 on top of your base
But it's
rate.
a debt service.
But the
not
base rate going up is the same amount no matter how much you use, correct?
Yes.
Correct. And that's because it's a debt service. It's a debt. Everyone's going to share the debt equally. It's not based on your water usage.
It should be based on how much you use.
You will get charged your water usage based on how much you use.
Yeah.
But your debt to pay for these, new plants
somebody
will be
that's-
divided evenly.
Somebody's got a $500,000 house and wastewater uses 20 units. The amount of debt that they're going to be paying on is the same as somebody that.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, what about the elderly people that make $800 a month and they're already giving up a portion of their medicine month? That's where I have a problem with. A percentage across the board would seem a little bit more idealistic. So if you use 5 units, it's going to be X amount of dollars, so why not up the bill 20% straight across the board? So when you have the apartment complexes and they use 150 units, they get charged the 20% on top of it versus the person that uses 3 units, they get 20% on top of the 3 units.
Okay.
That seems, it's like a sliding scale, it seems a little bit more fair.
Well, there are different ways to make the same amount of money, but you need the same amount of money. So it's going to have to be somebody deciding what's the most fair. Now, the reason that it was put on the base rate, and this I agree with this concept, is you need to have that money guaranteed.
You know how much water you use a year?
Well, no, that's variable. That's variable.
How much?
That's variable. That's a lot, because if somebody decides that the bill's going up and it's on the volume, they may cut back. We've seen people that have cut back by recycling, for certain industries and stuff. So if I know that it really does, there's a real risk if you put it on the volume. Now those people are still going to pay more water. They're still going to pay a higher bill. In other words, if they get 100 units a month at $4.90, they're going to pay that. And if you have 4 units, you're only going to pay the 4. So they're not getting off scot-free. But at least that's where the justice. But being on the base rate, it does, from the villager standpoint, provide the assurance that they have the money to pay these loans, because there is not. The state auditor said it. The agencies are going to say it. You sign the bill, pay your debt, and that's why I'm saying this is.
They didn't sign the bill, though. That's the thing. The previous administration.
I understand. I do.
And we know what happened with the previous administration.
No, I understand that. I really do. I'm just saying this is a terribly unique situation, and one that I don't envy anybody, because the problem is a debt problem, not an operating problem. Because you can deal with operating problems. You can figure out how to cut costs if you can. You absolutely don't have the ability to cut $1 off of that $815,700 rate. You just don't have any ability. You just have to pay it, and that's tough, because then you can sit here and you can daydream all day about how you might try to. You can't change that number, and it's what is it, 815 out of 1,000,003. So that's, what is that, 70%? You have a fixed cost of 70 to 75% of your annual water and sewer bill. I've never seen one this out of whack. That's just a fact, and I've been doing this forever.
Stephanie, to answer the thing about not that it's a great answer, but about the apartments, if there's 50 different apartments in that complex, they're all paying separate, just like if it was a home.
Oh,
Some people don't think that the apartment's just one bill. It's separated.
I'm just saying that, say that there is a house that has 12 people living in it, and it's one water main. They're paying the $29, and they're using 14 units a month. Why not put a percentage on top of that on each unit to offset some of that $29 to bring it down for the elderly, so it doesn't? Because you're going to end up getting that anyway, in the end.
Yeah, but you're not. This has not changed. You see, I think I see what they're doing. Is so that you can use all the water you want, and you're paying for the water. And everybody who uses all the water they want will pay for their water.
Oh yeah, I totally
But then every household is paying a tax. We are being charged a fixed tax. But if you want to cut down on your water, it's only going to reduce your water bill. If you're going to splurge on water, it's only going to increase your water bill. And that's why they thought this would be fair, because if you don't use much water, then you're less touched than if somebody uses a lot of water. You're still paying water separate from the debt. It just comes in the same bill, but it's like two different bills. One is fixed, and one is what you use. So it's
I'm just saying,
it's kind of fair.
There's got to be a different way for Wayne.
Yeah, but me, I'm on Social Security, and we never get a raise on Social Security, so it's the same amount every year we get. So time we get all our bills paid, I don't even have $1 in my pocket right now.
That's what I have a problem with.
What his question is, so that everybody can hear it. I know the people at home, they want to hear what the questions are. What he is saying is that if you're on Social Security and this increase, he can't afford to pay the $50. So that's what.
I can't afford it.
I understand, but changing to the water would not change anything, because he said we have something that's incompressible, and I don't like it either. And nobody's is shouting April Fool, so we're going to have to face it, and I don't like it. I'm 66, so maybe yeah. So there are many of us that are not happy with it.
You never get a raise on Social Security, it stays the same, but the bill keeps going up. The more you go to store, everything's getting higher.
And it is a sad situation, but as you said, there's people with 5 or 7 kids that use all this water, and there's no hope for them to get a raise. They have to be home for the kids after work. They're on a set income too, and it is sad. I
think it should be.
How many units do you use?
I have no idea, I pay 46, but I don't know how many units it is. 2.
There's another thing though. Since we got in this fix,
I'm just trying to help the people at home that can't attend.
since we got in this fix, because some firms didn't do a very stellar job, and we didn't catch it. I mean, those of us that were in the council back then. And apparently some people from our community benefited from whatever arrangement was made. Can we go after those people criminally?
We're in discussions about that right now.
Because if there are some fat cats in this community who swindled and got us where we are, they should be the one that should pay for it the hardest.
We're in discussion with OWDR. We've explained to them the applications that were put out for these loans were grossly exaggerated. For instance, they exaggerated that we were going to build a certain amount of new homes every year. I've heard from 14 to 40. They exaggerated the fact that once this water plant was built, that Burr Oaks would be annexed and McClymondsville would be annexed with new homes going up. So we've already got a hold of OWDR. They're coming down. We're going to show them the applications that we feel were fraud, in a sense, so that we can go back on this engineering firm, and I'll just say IBI. It started out as ME and then it went to IBI, and we're going to take them possibly to court if they have insurance, which I'm sure they do. You know, we're looking, you know, she didn't run down the hallway and bring this rate increase up. This is something that these people have been struggling with for a year now. And I sympathize with that gentleman back there. I really do. No one wants things to go up. For instance, gas fluctuates every week, but you still got to put gas in your car. We have to pay this debt. We come up with what we thought was the most fair way to do it, not to penalize any particular person or persons in town. So that's the rate structure that he presented, that we thought that this was the most fair way to reach this amount of money. We didn't want to put a burden on a young family with 5 kids that's trying to buy a new home in town. But at the same time, we had feelings for this gentleman. We have a lot of elderly people in town. We struggled with this. But the bottom line is, like he said, it's numbers. We had to come up with a certain amount of money. This is what we finally agreed on. This rate structure right here. Are we pursuing the people that put us in this mess? Of course we are. I probably shouldn't say that the Attorney General is looking into it. But that's all I know. I probably shouldn't have said that, but I don't know any more than that. I know they are.
We need to know that.
But I don't know what's going on because I don't ask them. I don't want to know. I want to know when someone's indicted or somebody I can take to court. Tell me who I can take to court to retrieve some of this money that we thought that we was frauded out of. Of course we're pursuing that, but you all know that these things take time, a lot of time. And right now we do not have the time. That's why we took 3 readings for this ordinance. That's 6 weeks to try to explain to you the urgency, because they wanted to do us 6 months ago. The auditor told me 6 months ago, you need to do this right now, so next June you won't be broke. And we've struggled and struggled and struggled and put up with the auditor every week. And that's how compassionate this group is about this community and this rate increase. But the bottom line is, to make the numbers, we felt that this was the fairest way to do it. Now, I hope a year from now I can come back here and you people all be here and we'll be arguing about how much I'm going to lower your bill. I hope we get some kind of reimbursement somewhere, so that we can come back and lower these bills, because they've lowered the debt or they've paid us. I don't know, but we're pursuing everything. Every idea that people bring us, we're pursuing.
Could the Attorney General overturn the actual litigation of the contracts?
I cannot speak for any of those people. No, we cannot speak for them.
You have to talk to your legal counsel and stuff like that. I suspect that part would be civil. You know, I would suspect.
What happens? All this is based on 700 customers. What happens now a year down the road if 100 customers move out of the community? And what's going to happen then? You're going to come back to council and increase everything again?
Nope.
Well, how are you going to meet your debt?
I mean, you're asking me questions that...
Well, you better be thinking about this.
No, I'm not going to think about 100 people moving out.
Well,
I'm thinking about making a debt payment in December and June. That's what I'm thinking about. If 100 people move out, goodbye. I hope.
Well, you better be thinking about what you're going to do.
And I'll tell you something else. This average that they gave us statewide, it's an average. We're still below the 50% of people that pay water bills in Ohio. It's not like you people all of a sudden, or we're all of a sudden paying twice what everybody else pays. We're not.
I make good money. I work for the state of Ohio.
Right.
I make good money. I can pay that.
Right.
There's a lot of people in this room that can't do that.
I understand that. And you think we haven't thought about that for a year?
Well, I'm not saying you haven't, but I'm looking in the future. I'm not just looking right at the moment.
That's what we're looking at, the future.
But you better be thinking about people that's going to move out of this community.
I'm not worried about people moving out of this community. We got new homes being built, being sold every week or every month out here. And we got more new homes coming in.
Well, I've been in this community 60 years.
I know you have. I know you and your father and your mother. But we did not create this. Like
no, you
said,
did not.
This is a unique situation. This is a terrible situation that we've all jumped into. And we're trying to pursue action to get some of this back. But right now, if you call the auditor right now, they'll tell you, you better make that payment in December, and you better make that payment in June, or I'll come down there and I'll make it for you. We have no choice. No choice whatsoever. Trust me. We've thought inside the box, outside the box, and clear around the box. We have no choice. That's why we hired this expert right here.
When the village catches their breath, and that's the problem, is you haven't had a chance to catch your breath now that this problem has come up. I mean, the village does have to begin to be proactive. For instance, if this thing was built because someone thought the borough could come in, we've got to start pursuing whether we can get an extra 200 customers for the system. It's not going to just happen. But we've done a lot of projects where you go out and you make an offer and you try to get those customers. You market the customers. You have the resource. You have to monetize your plant. You're paying for it now. So I think part of what the mayor's saying is, if 100 families leave, the money has to come from somewhere else. We know that. If we can go out and find 200 more customers, then that benefits the community. don't know if any of those things can happen, but a community has to do that kind of planning. But I believe, since I've been here like 8 months, there hasn't even been the time to pursue that, because everyone's trying to figure out, you know, how to get this thing on an even keel and even find out exactly what the debt is. So, I mean, you're asking the right questions, everybody's asking the right questions, and there's probably some very proactive things that might help that out. And I hope the village tries to do those and looks into trying to get expansion of that. You have a resource, so, and you know, you can afford to negotiate with that, since you have that resource, and try to use it. So, yes, sir.
Frank, I have a concern here.
Okay.
In the legislation and in your literature here,
Okay.
there was a comparison done based on the 2016 EPA water and sewer.
Correct.
And I agree here that the combined rate using the, I refer to the charts, by the way.
Yes.
I do agree that the combined average rate for the state of Ohio
Yes.
is $1,289.
Okay.
That matches the charts.
Okay.
What I don't understand is how can the combined annual water and sewer rates for Mount Sterling residents be $885?
They aren't. That's the combined rate at today's rates. Look a little further, I believe, unless I made a mistake, and believe me, I can make a mistake.
Here. Oh.
Well, I have that.
Okay.
Sorry, I have that. I'm saying, if I'm reading, if I know what you're saying, I think that paragraph in the report, let me see here, I'll make sure.
Because I'm just basing it on, number one, the average state
Yes.
of 1289. You just add the water and sewer for the state. And then I went to Mount Sterling and did the addition.
Yes.
And that came out to be, I think, $1,517.
I got 1,356
On the
combined rates for Mount Sterling when the rate increase is in place. And the 885 is what the rate is today for a regular ratepayer at today's rates.
of Mount Sterling?
Mount Sterling, if you pay that much, if you pay your roughly 39 for water, there's 39, so 72. There's $72 is the average residential rate in town. 72 times 12 is about $850.
Well, I guess my point is, this 1289 was based on the chart in the EPA folder.
It was just the two
It was two combined. So using that basis,
right.
combining Mount Sterling sewer and water
Right.
is much higher than 882.
It's $1,356.
And it's 1517.
Well, then one of us made a math error.
Right.
And it may be me.
Okay.
The one thing I want to comment on, this calculation, if it's wrong, and I made a mistake, it had nothing to do with what we made the raise.
Correct.
I was just trying to show people that if it makes you feel any better, you aren't getting beat up any worse than most people in the state.
Got it.
This is the idea. And if I made a mistake, and I can check it, it's just, I got 1,356, not 1,500, but you may be right.
Okay.
And I can't argue with that.
And then
And if it was 15, then you'd be a little higher than the state average.
yeah, we would be 17% higher.
Yeah, that's right, if you did, that's correct.
And then
But please understand, because it's important, that I didn't go back and say, let's see, what does everyone else in the state pay, let's charge them that. The two are separate issues. I mean, we were.
understand.
Okay.
And then right below that,
Yes, sir.
did you mean to write, when you did the extrapolation, did you mean to use the year 2019 instead of 18?
I tried to say if it's averaging of whatever the average rate increase was, I brought it forward 2 more years, so it would be 19.
So this 18 should be 19?
It's 19.
Okay.
What the rate will be next year when you first start. Because that's the first year you're going to get the rate increase.
Correct. Well, what I did, and this is, I don't want to take up too much of your time, but this is kind of important. What I did then was I factored in the reserve money,
$3 a
the
month.
three, and then the 330 or the 130.
Right.
I factored those into our rates,
Yes, sir.
our new rates, and I used the, Yes, Diane. Speak in the mic. I've got all these papers. What I used was the new rates using the factor of all those reserve accounts and using the state average of 7,756 gallons.
Okay.
And based on that, the new rate of 2019, based on those numbers, the state averages, is $2,216 per year for 2019. That's substantial.
But that is not, that math is correct, but the logic of we're not using any of those numbers from the study to get to your rate.
Correct. I'm just.
And I was concerned when I put this in. What I understand about that study is not fair because there is no fair comparison between communities. Because some of these communities, they list a rate for the community for the year for water and sewer. They don't tell you they made a $5,000 assessment on a person's property tax to pay some of the debt. So and they don't count that in here. So if you take $5,000, an assessment that is $30 a month on your property tax, you have to add that to your sewer and water bill to make a comparison. So they're not a fair comparison. The only thing I will state about that is if you read that report carefully, I believe that Mount Sterling has paid on the low end, and that makes sense because you haven't really raised your rates for a lot of years. And that now you're forced to do a huge rate increase, which I never approve of, which is going to get you probably even above the average. Don't get me wrong, you're going to be high, but it isn't 300% higher. That's all I was trying to say. It's not double everybody else in the city. It's not triple anybody else in the state. It's maybe a little higher, and for what that's worth. It doesn't make you feel any better. You're still going to pay $113 a month for water.
Okay, and one last thing is that once again I factored in the reserve accounts, and just by the way you did your math, the inside residential users price increase is reduced by the more they use.
Well, yes.
The price, yes.
The percentages.
Correct.
We're only putting it on the base rate, and we're not increasing the volume charge.
Understand.
In the system, which we thought was at least some break for everybody.
And
you're right, though.
I did notice that the industrial usage increases because it's based on volume.
Based on volume.
So that's
the only way I could think of, or we could think of,
right,
to make sure you get enough revenue. Your math is correct in all of it. I appreciate that.
Okay, sure.
I don't want to misinterpret. I don't want anyone to misinterpret. All that was some offer of data. The whole report's available, and it's 56 pages of very boring stuff to me. But on the other hand, it's there.
And then one more thing, promise.
Yeah.
Promise. This is the end.
Yep.
Regarding the reserve accounts or the sinking fund,
yes.
Will those numbers be incorporated into rates that the residents receive, or are they going to be a separate issue?
I don't think that's been dealt with finally.
Okay.
The only thing I do in the report was say, if you want to have a reserve account, you don't get it out of the rates I'm showing you. Here's what it would take per customer to get a little reserve. So it can be added to the base, to the volume. It can be a separate thing. They just have to know that if you want a reserve, if you want to try to get a reserve, even though the rates are really high, if you really feel you have to have something, it's going to cost you approximately $3.30 a month.
Okay. And so we don't know yet if they're going to be separate or factored in.
I don't know that. Unless
Okay.
the council knows what they're deciding.
We know. Yeah, we know.
Okay. So
Likewise with the capital. If you want to add $1.30, you can build a project. If you can't afford to add it right now, you can't do it.
my concern is that it's in compliance with ORC 74305. That's why I'm asking that. Okay. Thank you.
The gentleman behind you wants to ask a question.
Sorry, I don't want you to trip on that. That's under your feet.
Yeah, first of all, I have this here. If you would go ahead and give that to councilmen and councilwomen. Pass it around. So it's not only the water bill that we're talking about, it's the quality of water that we have. What you're seeing there is what I managed to get out of my hot water tank. Our quality of water here is poor. It's not very good water. In the last few years, not only have we had to replace 2 heating elements in our hot water tank because of the poor quality of the water, we went through 3 Keurig coffee pots, 2 shower heads. All of our toilets had to have the internal mechanics of the toilets fixed. And our quality of water is very poor. And if we're going to compare us to other municipalities, other water companies, then you need to throw out the ones that include trash service with the water bills. And then my question then is, currently, what is our delinquency? This is what's in all of our water tanks. Every single one of us has this in our water tanks, and this is in our water system. And what's causing problems in my mechanics in the house is going to cause problems with this overly priced water pump system that was bought. So there is going to be some maintenance costs that I know the village is not prepared for, because this is poor quality water. This stuff should not be in our water tanks. Absolutely.
Has that improved at all since January 1st?
No, it hasn't. No, it hasn't. Our ice dispenser, our water dispenser has been broken. I pay an additional $30 a month to have water shipped to my house. Drinking water.
Has it gotten any worse?
Is the water? It sucks and it still sucks. No, the water. You're asking the same question, and the water's still poor quality.
No, I'm not. In a way, I wasn't, because first of all, the plant that you guys got built is an outstanding, technologically advanced plant. It also requires, I won't say tweaking. I don't want to use the right word. The reverse osmosis stuff has to be operated properly. And the amount of softening that's done has to be done properly, so that you don't cause corrosion in the water lines that would make your water worse. And that's one of the things that the operators are probably working with now, to try to figure out how do we make the water better, not worse, because of the water chemistry. You've heard of water chemistry and the fact that can, a lot of that problem may not be at the water plant, it may be in the lines.
Right.
And so I guess all I'm asking, I'm trying to get a handle of the health.
Well, we're talking about a brand new house in the Miranda development, so
I'm talking about the main water line, not your water.
And furthermore, with all due respect, Mr. Martin, I'm really discerned that you don't care about people moving out of the village, and I find that kind of attitude very, very abrasive. I know you don't care, but I do.
And I don't think your opinion of my water is right. We have pristine water coming out of that water.
Sir, I didn't interrupt you.
Sir,
I didn't interrupt you when you were talking, so please allow me, okay?
Go ahead.
The Phase 2 project, you're talking about the Miranda development, they're talking about holding that development. So these new homes you're talking about being built, don't put the carriage before the horse, because that is in jeopardy that Miranda may not be developing that Phase 2. Okay? Every single landlord, and I've worked with a lot of investors in this community, they're going to be losing a lot of money because of the rate increase. Okay, there's landlords I know that own up to 10, 15, 16 properties. They're going to be forced to increase that rent. Now, I'm not sure, what is their delinquency in monthly water bills right now currently, Missy?
I don't know the exact percentage, but I mean, it's under 10%.
Okay, and it's going to get higher. So 10% out of, it's going to get higher. And furthermore, as the water bills increase, and then we're looking at, and this isn't your fault, but we're looking at another 1.25% income tax that's been added to us. There's nothing attractive about moving to Mount Sterling, Ohio. There's nothing attractive about it, especially when I have a mayor that doesn't care if people leave. I'm sorry, but that hurts me as a community.
I didn't say I didn't care.
I think you did.
I don't have time to worry about stuff
well,
like that.
As a mayor, you need to worry about, you have to have a vision for the future.
I do.
You have to have a vision for the future, and you have to be able to understand and respect the people in the community who want to stay in the community and need to stay in the community. And this has the potential of being a good community. We've lost our schools, we've lost our grocery stores, we've lost so much. And there's so many things that are becoming more and more less attractive to make Mount Sterling to be. We should be doing something to be recruiting the building of the Mount Carmel Hospital. And the fact that also you said that I have a real issue too, and I'll say it publicly instead of say it behind your back, is the fact that you don't want to talk to the Attorney General. I would be emailing that Attorney General multiple times per week. I would be finding out the bottom line of this, that the fear facing the Attorney General is not going to make this problem go away.
I'm not afraid of facing the Attorney General.
Well, then,
That's your opinion. That's my job. My job is to be mayor of this town. I don't have time to worry about 100 people, which is ridiculous, moving out of town. I have a town to operate. Your opinion of my water is not right. I got pristine water coming out of there. You're paying the debt on a water plant, not the water pipes. That's.
So then here we are. Then we're going to have another issue coming down. We're going to be needing to replace water pipes. So this.
We will.
We're trying to dig ourselves out of a hole with a shovel in this community, and we keep doing the same thing. The definition of insanity is to keep doing the same thing over and over again and expect a different result. And the way that this leadership is taking us over the past decade in this village has put us in this position that we're at. And that plant should never have broken ground before it broke ground. If somebody didn't have sit down with a calculator and figure this math out, then shame on everybody.
Don't shame on me. I wasn't here.
Well, you should have known when you were coming in.
I knew what I was getting into.
Okay.
But just as far as the water quality, I just do want to make a factual, because I'm about facts. I mean, I don't base it upon what people bring in or what they've replaced. The EPA actually would shut us down if there was an issue with water. Now, what I do want to make point and make aware is that you had a water plant that was feeding lime, okay, for how many years? How many has 60 years of people's lived here, right? You have lime. You now have a water plant that has 3 different chemicals: sodium bisulfite, chlorine, and anti-scaling. Now, what happens when chemicals react? Right? You don't have to. You have consistent flow coming this direction from the old water plant. We all know where that's located, right? Where the new water plant is. Once you continue to use lime, what happens with those pipes? Corrosion happens, right? Right? I mean, that's what happens. There's so much buildup of lime because that's the problem. And we all know what lime does. It's a corrosion.
I happen to have a chemistry background, and lime does not cause corrosion.
Well,
lime causes lime buildup.
That's what I'm talking about.
Well, you said corrosion.
Okay, so lime buildup around the pipes, I guess is what I'm saying. So then you have anti-scaling, you have different chemicals coming this direction. What should have happened when the new water plant was built is there should have been a flush of distribution. That never happened. Guess what? It's going to happen come October the 22nd. Because you know what? When we came into this, nobody, what are we really mad about? We all are mad about what happened, right? We are all furious about what happened. We can't change that. What we have to do is we have to continue to move forward. Now, we can all agree to disagree, but the numbers say that we have to do this. And there is not one night or one time I had ever not received a text from these council members or from our mayor or from myself that had said, you know what else can we do? There are certain things that I can't say because I'm subpoenaed to not say certain things. And we are looking into it. I'm talking to OWDA, and I don't even know if they would want to help us. But the fact of the matter is, it is inherited problems that we have no control over. Well, what should we do? Shut everything down? Shut the doors down?
Yes.
Absolutely.
That's what needs to be done.
Shut it down.
It happened in the city of Cleveland, and it could happen here.
Well, guess what? We have council members that ask the same question.
That's exactly what should happen.
To the attorney generals.
When these people can't run it, then the state should.
And then the state would just raise the rate.
That's what I'm saying.
More than we have.
I trust the state.
And that's a shame.
It is a shame.
It is a shame. It is a shame that we feel like that.
Prize for Mr. Johnson's corruption.
But I'm just saying that it's things like a distribution should have been done, but it never was. Who has the money to pay for that? We don't. Believe me, I'm the fiscal officer here. I see every day $1 that comes out of there. And I see the people on Facebook, oh, the good old boy system, the water Nazis, whatever you want to call us. But you think that the state's not coming in here asking me every day, what money did you put through there? I need your cash receipts. I need your appropriations. What did you spend? Are you allowed to spend that? Every day, I have to send that to them. and you think they're going to let me squeeze a little penny out of here, it ain't happening. Because you know what they're saying? We all forget we are still under a physical emergency. And that is the reality of it. This is just an extra piece of that topping on this cake, right? We are under a physical emergency.
Saying physical or fiscal?
This is FISCAL, emergency.
Okay.
Now, we can all refer back to all of our council meetings. We have stuff from the auditors. I can provide you anything you want. But we have to remember, nobody remembers that. You are tight of what your 5-year plan is. And we have to follow that.
They're looking at
But-
the books.
Yes.
With magnifying glass, making sure all those I's are dotted
That's
and
right.
T's are crossed. I do
20
get that.
cents
I get
off.
it down.
And the
But-
equation, 20 cents off.
Exactly.
So, but everybody sees this now, but people weren't looking at it before.
Yeah, exactly.
How far it's coming when you're, Bob, I'm so sorry, because I feel like I know you pretty decent, and I think you have the wrong idea. This man is killing himself out there trying to fix pipes, checking for leaks. I mean, at the drop of a hat, going and removing dead animals off road, you name it. One from 13 people to 4 people, he's doing
I'm not
so
doubting that work,
much.
but when I hear the apathy of I don't care if people move out of the community.
I didn't say that.
Yes, you did.
No, I said I don't have time to worry about that.
And it was just taken wrong from frustration from him because he cares more than it's showing him, more than I promise you.
And if
that.
you think the state would come down here and do a better job than these people, I got news for you. They will not. They've already told me what they'll do. And you don't want them to come down here, trust me.
Well, I think this gentleman made some excellent points, and I don't think anybody sitting here should be bullied by a defensive mayor. I'm going to say that. And then the other thing I'm going to say is, Ms. Bricker, you said you didn't know about the OWDA, what could happen with them. I don't understand why a representative, and I truly don't understand why a representative from the Ohio Water Development Authority, which is what that stands for, isn't sitting here, trying to talk to us about renegotiating this financial instrument. I do not understand that. I do not take it at face value that that's not a possibility. Because when the OWDA accepted this village's loan application that was written, the numbers basically swindled the village. There were fraudulent number. There was a totally inflated number for the revenue stream that was going to service this debt. They knew it. Burr Oaks wasn't part of the revenue stream, wasn't for, everybody bought this bill of goods by an engineering firm that built us. That got paid how much? Millions? Y'all said last meeting? They get paid millions, and the village has to incur millions on their backs in outrageous residential bills. I just don't think that the residents should have to carry this on their backs when IBI, that's making a filthy fortune on small communities like ours, just goes about their merry way, goes to another community, bilks them. I mean, why isn't the OWDA holding this engineering firm accountable in cutting this small community, which I do believe something like 40% are elderly or are at or below the poverty level? I mean, those are the census numbers. Look them up yourself. People cannot afford. I do not want to see elderly people cutting their pills in half, trying to live on half a box of saltines all week or whatever they eat. I have a mother that's on a fixed income. She's 84. I know what it's like for someone on Social Security to have to struggle to make a quart of milk last just a little longer. We have to look for another way. We've got to run the numbers a different way to see if the little old lady or man that's making, sorry, I didn't mean to, you know, I'm old too. I'm 64, so.
Okay, so let's just, let me.
But no, I just want to add, I don't think it's right for someone using 1 unit of water, a senior citizen that's trying to conserve should be paying, instead of $32, 80 something, paying 158% more under this new cockamamie scheme. And you know, when they're on a fixed income, is that fair that they should pay 158% more on their bill under this $50 plus, we don't know, more fees probably, on top of the 50 each month? I mean, is that right? Is that conscionable? It isn't. And there's nothing anybody can say to me that would tell me that this is conscionable. It's not ethical, it's not conscionable, it is obscene.
So let me address your question. I can address my question as far as the OWDA. I can only tell you what they tell me, okay? And at this point, I am not subject to say anything about it. You don't think that I've called them up. She's heard me. A fist. You better do something down here. We've got elderly people. We got a community that was wronged. We are all wronged. But we cannot let these bills go into a deficit. Now, like the mayor said, we would love to come back and say, you know what? Guess what? We have $3 million that we recouped.
Maybe
and I would love to come back and say that, but the bills need to be paid at the time.
Can't they stay some of these payments until we are trying
That's what I'm trying to work through. But I cannot, I'm not going to give an open-ended promise or lie to anybody to say that they would go this direction or this direction. I would not have the liberty, and I couldn't stand here and tell you all that. That would be untruthful to me and trying to be an honest person. That is why it's put on 3 readings, because guess what? If everybody's paid attention to all these council meetings, everything's been passed on emergency, has it not? Because guess what? Somebody in the middle of the night wakes up and says, you know what? I've got the perfect plan. I know how to solve this entire village. And guess what? We run through the numbers, we run it through the state auditors, the attorney generals, the investigators, and guess what? An OWDA, and guess what? Nope, you're not going to do it. You signed this little line right here that says that you did. And all of the previous council, they passed it all. Sorry about your luck.
Yeah, well, the news stations need to be in here.
And OWDA, believe me, right now, I've been waiting by a phone call today and hoping that I would get the right answer and I could come in here and say, you know what, I got the answer to everything. I wish I could come here and say that. That's why it's on 3 readings, because everybody up here has worked of asking ideas and put themselves out on the line with the state auditors, and they have to come down here. Just like Rebecca says, we had a meeting here last Tuesday because she had an idea. Guess what? Nope, not going to happen. You're under a physical emergency and you have bills to pay.
Well, there's also something called the referendum. So if this passes on 3rd reading on October, 22nd? 2 weeks from, okay, the other day, okay?
From the 8th.
There's 30 days, you know, before that legislation can go into effect. And there is something called the referendum, where this whole sham can be put on the ballot. And this legislation can be deemed, you know, unconstitutional or whatever, but it can be overturned at the ballot box. And maybe that's where this needs to go from here, because it's obviously not going anywhere here.
Yeah, it is.
I don't think
And I'd
it
like
is.
to say something else. This community was duped back in 2012. They elected 6 people on council, and they elected a mayor back in 2012. This community wasn't duped. This council and this mayor was.
No, we were duped by
I was part of the community.
That is
I thought
lie.
they was looking out for my best
That
interests.
is a lie. You don't keep saying the same lie over and over and over
Who
again.
approved all that legislation?
I know who did our engineering.
Yeah.
I know who crunched the numbers, Billy, and so do you.
It's not
and
these
that's
people.
why you fired
And it's
them.
not me.
That's why you fired them.
That's right. You
Okay.
have a question, Julie?
Thank you, thank you.
It's not all
Okay,
Joe. We
okay,
constantly-
okay.
It's not all.
Listen,
Okay.
please.
Sorry.
Go ahead. You're fine.
Sir, I have a question. You had mentioned earlier, and I think we did discuss this at the last meeting. I'm going to ask it again. I apologize if I'm beating a dead horse.
You're fine.
You said that we could not file bankruptcy. Did I hear?
I don't believe that.
Or we can't. Okay, let me rephrase. Okay, let me rephrase that. Why can't we? You said we can't renegotiate, and is that a rule with OWDA?
Let me tell you, to the best of my knowledge, what's going on. You have a solicitor, and I'm not playing attorney.
Okay.
But I've lived through this in a lot of communities. Okay. The OWDA loans, I said, are not callable. That means they are not allowed to be refinanced, because what happens is they take the money that you signed for and agree to pay back. They combine them all over the state, and they sell bond issues through the state, hundreds of millions of dollars. And they require your revenue to pay the bondholders. So it's not like you're an isolated person sitting here where they can sit there and go, let me give you a break. They have promised to the big attorney firms in Cleveland and Columbus that they're going to pay $200 million to purchase these bonds. And $9 million of that's coming from Mount Sterling. And you'll even see a list somewhere that says that bond issue was satisfied by a promise of $9 million. Just so you understand what's going on. Now, so the first thing you got to understand is that they take in good faith what is submitted on their applications. Okay? They expect that the village did its due diligence. They expect that everybody was honest. They check it out, okay, as much as they can, and they make a loan. And I'm fairly sure there's a document, OWDA, that lays out exactly how Mount Sterling's going to pay this back. And from what I'm hearing and what makes sense to me, it probably was exaggerated.
Yeah, exactly.
And it had to be tied to growth, I'm guessing, because to get from where you were to where you had to be, you would have to at least double in size. You just have to.
Right.
So anyway, so they take that at face value. Now they gave you the loan. Now they're on the line. If you cause them a problem, then they're causing their bondholders a problem, and their lawyers go all kind of crazy. So you gotta understand that it's like everything sort of just kicks up another step. Now, there are two things about that. If you feel like you've been wrong civilly, you have to go out and the community's looking into that. But it's not a, if you went, the agency expects you to pay your bill on time. They're glad to see you get it all back from somebody, but they're not going to sit there and wait for it. So you got to take sort of like parallel paths. And the one path is make sure you keep paying your bills. Now, I've worked with OWDA for 42 years. Okay? Courtney's been spending time with them, and I've been spending time with them. So don't believe that we're just ignoring it and saying, and when I say you can't renegotiate, I'm saying it's some of the hardest stuff in the world because you signed a contract that said you can't.
But the contract was not a contract because it was.
Well, that is between. I'll tell you what, they have a lot better lawyers than you could ever afford.
Yep. All they have to do is look at their books.
And I'm just saying.
Basically, look at Mount Sterling's books at that time.
That's what we're trying to do.
Please understand, I'm not arguing with a person in this room.
Right.
I'm really not. Okay. All I'm trying to say is, knowing OWDA, if we attempted to say, look, we really got put in a terrible spot, what can you do for us? The first thing they're going to look at, well, come on, people, you got to make them put a rate increase in place for 4 years. We need to see some good faith. If you want to talk to us about thinking about something, don't come in here and not having done anything. So I would tell you, with 42 years experience, and I'm on your side now, if you want to try to get something done with OWDA, make sure you pass a rate ordinance that covers your bills. Then maybe they'll listen to you and cut you some slack. And I only say maybe, and I've told Courtney, don't promise anybody anything about those things, but it sounds to me like you people have been promised stuff for years.
I have a question.
And you can't, you gotta hear the truth. Those numbers are the truth, except where Frank got my math error. And I don't think that's relevant to the numbers. That you got true numbers now, and that's important. I think you've got a true look at, and I've seen some faces here when they saw those annual debt payments, it didn't look pretty. So you got that part done. I know the people are working like crazy to figure out how to run these plants better and maybe get your water quality better. I think the village is going to have an opportunity, but I sure would promise to try to go out and find some customers to spread this cost out. It would be smart. Can't do it this week because you got to figure out how to pay your bills.
Okay.
So I guess I'm saying, as a practical person, I think you got to look at some of the steps. I haven't heard one person here say anything that I think is incorrect. Okay, it's a matter of how you put it together and how many things you can do at once and how fast you can move. And that's what I said. I'm trying to be a part of that to help and I've had the experience to know probably the best way to try to do it. But it's not going to be easy, and you believe in 42 years I've never seen a community with this much debt per customer.
It's pretty sad, isn't it?
It is. No,
Yeah.
it's just scary.
Yeah,
It's not-
it is.
It is.
Yeah.
It's just, I've never seen it.
Okay.
So I'm just telling you.
Thank you.
And so there's a chance to renegotiate, but they're going to expect you to go way out on the limb and prove that you're going to try your hardest. And I think the village will try just as hard to try to get something done.
Agreed.
But I don't know what they're supposed to do now because they've got to get this rate in place by the end of the year. I do know that. Or some rate that covers these costs.
Okay. I'm sorry. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Mr. Mayor.
Yes, ma'am.
I want to ask you to, I don't know, I'm not political, okay? And I'm grateful at the hard work and efforts that all of you are putting into this, and I wouldn't be in your shoes for nothing. Now, that being said, you commented that we don't want the state to come in here, and I appreciate that comment, but would it be any worse? Don't take it personally.
Okay.
Would it be any worse if the state came in? And if so, how would it be worse for the village, for the people? Because I'm a part of a church that is now, we had a board meeting last night, we're going to have to pay $150 extra per month.
I know.
Per month. And we're a nonprofit. So, and it's not that we can't do it, and we will do it because we're being told we have to do it, and we'll respect that. But again, what would happen if the state were to come in?
All right, I'll tell you what was told to me.
Okay,
in my
thank you.
office.
Please.
Because when I was sworn in, I was called to an office, and I was sit down with the state auditor representative, and he said, I got 3 things for you to do now that you're the mayor. I said, okay. He said, the first thing is I want you to double the water rates right now. Excuse me? I want you to double water rates right now. I said, okay, what's the second thing? I want you to fire 4 people because you're way overloaded with help. I said, okay, what's the third thing? He said, I want you to do it right now. I said, well, you might as well fire me. Kick me out of office because I'm not going to do that. Yes, we need it to be done. I said, I'm not going to put my community through that. Have you been under a rock for the last 2 years? Have you not seen what my community has been drugged through the sewer by the people that work in this hall right here? We've seen it all. And we'll come down and explain to you what happened one of these days. But I need this stuff. I said, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I cannot do that to my community. I can release some of the help, and thank God some of them left on their own. And last month I was in the office, and they wanted to know why this wasn't passed already. Now I'm talking to a lady that's 2 doors down from David Yost. That's how big a splash she makes when she puts her foot down. Wants to know why this is not passed. I said, we're still working on it. There's still issues that she's got. She's bugging me every day with these issues, and I'm talking to Courtney. We're still not really into this. She said, let me explain to you what's going to happen if this is not in effect. There's going to be a guy come through the door, and he's going to have a black suit on. And he's going to come in, and he's going to fire you. I said, okay, why me? I'm trying to work this thing out because you're not getting it passed. And trust me, there'll be 6 more people following you out the back door. They're called counsel. And he'll walk down the hall and he'll tell Courtney exactly the way she's going to run her books. And if she don't do it, she'll be fired. And he'll go in and he'll tell Misty, you double the water rates right now, and if you don't double them, you'll be fired. She said that's just the way the state's going to run it. There's going to be a person they're going to appoint him from London, and he's going to come down here and he's going to run this town. And he's going to make every decision for this town. And trust me, you don't want him to come through that front door. If these people think they've got it bad now, wait till he comes through that front door, because he don't care. He's coming down here, he's going to give you his orders, and he's going to turn around and walk back out the door. He don't care what people think. I said, you're kidding me, that actually happens? Yes, it has happened. It has happened to communities. You don't want to file bankruptcy. You don't want, because we've talked about all this. We've talked about unincorporating. We've talked about all of this. Trust me, for 10 months, this has been the main topic of all of our conversations. And I'm listening to this every day. If I seem like I'm a little bit short-fused, I listen to this every day, and I apologize. I did not try to single her out. I would not single anybody out. We have 3 people that were in charge of the village. They're being checked out. That's all I can tell you, because that's all I know. I explained to some people that those 3 people kept my counsel, which was in 2012 and 13, 14. They didn't have a clue what was going on. These 3 people just told them what they needed to hear. And they did everything that they wanted to do behind their backs. It's not my counsel's fault, but it's 3 other people's fault. And they said, you don't want to file bankruptcy. Trust me. You don't want to do that. The state's not going to, they're not going to accept the bankruptcy. If you want to incorporate, you're going to have 1,900 pissed off people, because then they won't have a local government. The county commissioners will run the town. So we've went the whole scope of listening to people wanting to burn down Townhall, and I apologize to this gentleman. We have pristine water coming out over here. But we have 60 years worth of pipes that have lime running through them. And they never thought to change that. They never thought. So I could go out there and bang on a main water line right now, and everybody on the block's water's going to turn brown. And we deal with that every week. I'm dealing with that with businesses. I'm dealing with that today. We had to blow a hole because a lady's 50-year-old sewer pipe broke. So we're doing the best we know how. Trust me, these people are putting 100%. These 2 girls in the office, they're amazing. And they're doing a wonderful job. What I try to tell everybody is, somebody told me at the county level, look, if you think you're stepping into a puddle of crap, you're wrong. You're getting into a bucket of crap down there. You don't need to be down there in Mount Sterling. But I took the job anyhow. And I'm doing the best I can. We have pristine water coming out. I don't have a clue. You know, I'm not a water expert. I just deal with issues every day. But trust me, we're doing everything we can not to pass this. The auditors doing everything they can to get it done now. Hopefully, we were talking today, hopefully next year we'll be in here arguing about how much I'm going to lower your water bill. I hope that things turn around. I hope that she makes something happen with the loans. But I can't. All I know now is I got to have this rate increase in effect. You know, and we have to deal with gentlemen like that every day. Single moms are not working. It's not only the elderly. We have a lot of single moms that didn't make bad choices. Bad luck came their way. And she deals with that every day.
Yeah, Frank, if I may, sorry to invite you.
You're fine.
Frank, you know, that was the kind of question that I asked, and I think your question still remains is, would it be worse if the county came in here? Right. Believe me, I asked the question to 20 million different people.
I've only had one village unincorporated, and it was in Brown County, and it was the ugliest year I've ever seen because the county didn't. What does the county want to come in and inherit your $16 million? So they're going to fight it. So then you're going to be in common police court. You're going to be arguing with the judge as to who wants to take it. I mean, it sounds like they thought it was going to be an easy solution. This little village, who unincorporated?
Did you mean 16? Did you say 60?
What, million? 16 million.
Okay, I thought it was 16.
It's bad enough. No, 16
you know,
wait a minute.
Believe me,
I'm just saying that sounded like an easy way to say, we're done.
Yep.
But then you start thinking about, well, wait a minute now. You're a legal entity. You have loans with legal entities. You can't,
they don't take that debt.
There's all kind of.
They don't take the debt.
And so all of a sudden you're in court and you have lawyers arguing as to how much. Why would Madison County? Can Madison County afford to take it over? Who's going to own the roads? Who's going to own the sewer system? What if this turns into disaster, that eventually that gets resolved. But I guess I would think one thing for sure: nobody is going to let the village off the hook for the debt. You may be paying it to somebody different. They may take your sewer debt. We see a lot of communities that take some of the debt and put it on property taxes. I think that's going to be enjoyable, right?
Well, Longwood, Madison County just raised their property taxes this year, along with the school district, raising the income
I guess I'm only saying, please don't
1.25%.
I guess it's worth looking at
my
the
point is, this community is at the breaking point in terms of their income and what they can afford to pay every month. You cannot get blood out of a stone.
I understand.
I know that much.
I understand. I've lived with EPA for years, and the one question they never ask when they come in and tell you to do something with sewer, they never ask if you can afford it. Their laws are written, and the code, the federal, I know the federal code. I just want you to. That's what you understand. The federal code says you cannot consider the ability to pay in making people clean up sewer and water. I can show you the language. So, at least here, and I've heard this for 6 months, an extremely empathetic group of people trying to figure out the best. The state, here it is, that's your bill. If you go to the county, I don't expect you're going to get much better, service from the county than you would get from this council. Everybody can think about it.
I did.
It just doesn't go smoothly.
What would it take for you to do something like this? Guess what? You have a 24-hour sheriff's department. You're done.
I think someone.
Guess what?
Someone
They
even
don't
asked.
control your 24 hours.
Someone even asked me. There are companies, private companies, that come in and buy water systems and run them for profit. Sure, you could probably get someone to come in and look at the system.
Why can't we sell the water? We're pumping all this water.
That's on. You got to find someone to buy.
We do.
I urge that.
We do that.
And we're looking. A private company's going to come in and say, "Well, you want to sell your water system?" Let me do the math. They'll look at all the debt. They'll look at all the operating costs. They'll sit there and go, "Okay, if we pay that much for the system, here's what your water rates are going to be," and they're going to cover their costs. then they're gonna add 20% because they gotta make profit.
Yep.
This village is not trying to make a profit. So I'm guessing that the rates would be higher under a private company.
And they told me that.
Because
They told me that.
they've got to make
Yeah.
money. So all I'm saying is, there's this full set of options. And candidly, the only way that you could be dealing with options is if you hadn't signed that loan and started building that plant and thought about it before you built it.
Exactly.
And it's just it's a terrible thing to hear. But now that the minute you signed that paperwork and did that first draw for the contractor, you're now, you have an obligation. And even a private company would say, oh yeah, we know if we buy your system, we got to retire $16 million in debt. Let's see, how much is that?
No, I didn't mean by the debt. I'm talking about, is there a possibility that we could sell?
We're trying.
I believe, I've already talked with the mayor. You have a commodity now. Okay,
Right.
Your problem is to be worthwhile, you have to monetize. Which means you have to figure out, how do I turn 700,000
Water to
gallons
gold.
of excess treatment capacity in my water plant? How do I turn that into some money?
Yeah.
So you go down to a borough and you say,
Need
hey,
Rumpelstiltskin.
guys,
Turn that water to gold.
If we could almost give it, we could really give you a cut rate price, quite frankly, because at least we'd be making some money off it. And start talking about that. And I'm guessing the council and the mayor are more than capable of starting to do things like that. And they should. Don't get me wrong. You now have a commodity that you have value. You have a sewer system that has value. People want that. But they're not going to come to you. You're going to have to go. To me, you have a marketing program to write. You come to Mount Sterling, we have water capacity, we got sewer capacity, even if you're not in town. The other thing is, a lot of communities say we won't give you water unless you annex. Sell water. Don't worry about annexing. Sell water to people. And I'm guessing council's going to do that. I think that's probably a little bit of the horse before the cart. You got to get this thing sorted first, then go out and make some money, I hope.
We're not giving up. We're going to continue to look into other avenues to save money. It's not easy, right? And it's not easy for us to sit up here and have to do it. We're residents too. My daughter, like your mother, faces financial issues. But I also ask her, I ran it past my kids, would you rather pay me, vote yes, and you pay $50 extra? Or would you rather me vote no, state come in and say, okay, $150 extra. That's the way you look at it. And if that's us as council trying to help the residents, that's what I'm trying to do.
I guess I'm just not 100% sure in my own mind.
It's hard to grasp because I'm still struggling. And the resident part of me. But believe me, we've had some real emotional meetings.
One more.
And over this because it's such a hard decision. We're not taking it lightly.
Thank you.
I have one more question, if I may.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so as it stands right now, if it passes after the third reading, our water bill is going to go up $50 a month per resident, and that is going to meet the obligation.
Yep.
Per household, yes, for me. Thank you. Did you also say that if we add, because we still don't have an emergency fund, so we're going to have emergencies. Did I hear you say, or did I misunderstand? If we added another $1.30, I'm not trying to break the bank here, but if we added another $1 or something to that, that might help with putting.
There were two numbers I put in the report. They were not part of the rate study, but I just told the community how much money it would cost. If you wanted to have the starting of a reserve fund,
yes,
it'd be about $3.30 a month on the water bill and about $3 on the sewer to get a 10% reserve account.
Okay. So it would be another almost $7.
But that's included.
That $49 raise, is that including taking some funds out of that?
It's a $50.30, if my math is right, raise total. That includes the extra money for reserve, that includes the extra money for capital improvements.
Right.
That includes both of those.
What the rates say, what the rates
Okay.
proposal is.
That makes me feel a little bit better.
Yeah, I'm just curious, if somebody can't pay their bill, how are you going to, and because they're of the medicine or food or whatever, how are you going to relate to that?
She relates to that every day with the water rate as it is. So Misty has to, talk to the administration, and they have to figure something out. They try to make payment plans and such as that. She tries to be as flexible as she can. I mean, Misty might want to speak more to it, but we already have that problem with the rates as they are.
I mean, you're right. It's not going to get easier. It's hard. It's more money that people don't have. But I mean, it's hard for us to say. I can't say, oh, do you have cable? Do you have this smartphone? Do you have this or that? Do you get your nails done? That's not up for me to ask. I can just try to work with them and get, they can make payments as they can, but it has to be paid. And the thought about raising each unit, another thought about that is, if it's not costing and we can't prove it costs more to make, if it's not more than $4.90 to make 1,000 gallons of water, how can we say, hey, we're raising that water, that unit rate, but it doesn't cost anymore? I mean, that's I don't even know if that would be legal or not, but because it's the debt that we're raising it for, not the cost to make that gallon of water.
But there would be a debt on top of each unit.
No.
But there's another whole group of people that would argue the same. Hey, I want a fixed income. I have 4 kids. I adopted these kids. I get no more money. It's the same on both spectrums. It's not just an elderly. I hear it so much and I hate it. I'm just trying to find each week a new program where people can get help, and we're going to have the next meeting, have somebody come in and talk about those programs, and I thought this, oh yeah, what are they going to do? Or, what can they give, $100? Or, I mean, I know it sounds ungrateful, but what's the catch? You get nothing for free.
Candy bars to help pay
we all should do it. But there are programs that will come in and they can clean the efficiency of your home. They can replace windows. You can go ahead and start.
How many out there remember the 37-cent gas, when we could get gas for 37 cents a gallon? Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And you could argue about it, but there's no one to blame.
How much have we paid? How much have we paid over there? Remember when it got $4 a gallon? I remember my dad thought it was the end of the earth, and I remember when it went up to 59 cents one time. He said, how am I going to make ends meet on my gasoline? And so we get these situations time, but the good old USA always finds a way to figure it out.
Nick, to answer Nick's question, and I'll let her ask a question. We are in contact with the county. Madison Bridge, we have had the county to help some of our people with their water bills. And like she said, we've got a group coming in to make a presentation. We're constantly reaching out to different agencies that will come in and help our people that can't make their water payment. We're constantly doing that. Yes.
If Joyce and I can help you in any way, let us know.
Okay. And there has been
we need volunteers to work together on this.
Absolutely. I mean, there's if you get an Energy Star appliance, you can get $100 off of your electric, so that can help pay for water. I mean, if you have an old fridge, you put it out and they'll give you $50 off your bill. There's just so many little things like that I told a lady yesterday. She was thrilled. I mean, there's so many things like that, and some of it's not income based.
Yes, Julia.
Which is nice.
I wanted to say thank you. Thank you for
Yes.
Thank you for
Yes.
this
Thank
gentleman
you.
Yes.
for your help. It was very
You're
helpful.
welcome, and I got to talk to you. Don't sneak out without
But I
talking
mean,
to me.
adding on to that is that, like everybody's talking about, like David said about gasoline. I just got a notice on one of our bills that, hey, they're going to increase it $15 to drive out here now. So then I think to myself, well, you know what? I'm going to drive my personal car up there. I'm going to meet somebody halfway, and I'm going to put it in a freezer. Or like Frank said, he goes, how in the hell did you did council in your finance committee ever cut this amount of money? I've never seen it in my life. Well, guess what? Persuasion can happen, because you know, hey, we're under a physical emergency. You know what? I can't afford to do that. Can you really help me out? Well, yeah, you know, we feel bad for you. Let's see what we can do. And he couldn't believe it. He goes, you think you can operate the next year like this? I said, you know what? I'm going to try, because believe me, I called him until people started screening my phone calls, because I changed. I'm going through 5 different chemical companies now. And then guess what? It's like cable. When they want to raise my thing, guess what? I can't get with you anymore. I got to go somewhere else. It's like the cable. And I'm constantly negotiating, constantly figuring a shopping way. And then you know what they say to me? What are you, crazy? Why do you keep calling me and canceling it? Because you know what? You didn't give me a good price.
Right.
I'm not paying for that freight.
Right.
We're under, and I use this term all the time, and they probably think, you know, well, you overused it. But it's working.
No, it's working. Yeah, good for you.
It's like Amazon Pro. Yeah. I mean, I was even thinking about going to the Donatos and saying, you know what, fix this pothole here.
Let me say one thing about Courtney. She's going to do everything she can to do what she can. I never seen a young lady work any harder. I will come in on some afternoon. She's in her office on that phone 24/7, doing whatever she can for the village. Bless her heart.
You and the mayor flagging traffic. We're fixing them.
Thank you all for coming in. We're adjourned.
Remember, you're still on mic. Huh? Remember, you're still on mic.
I think it was very meaningless. Now, I had to leave to go to this one meeting, but when I came back, what was going on? Talking about lying or something. It was kind of
Oh, wow.
good or bad.
No, what the heck was that on? I don't know what Drew had. Mister, can you tell when he came back in, they were talking about, I can't remember what they were talking about.
I want to contact.
Yeah, remember when he came back?
And I want to contact Bruce.
Did I step out with them?
That's when he came when he came back in.
I don't remember.
I don't want to say something. I don't know what it was.
Good game. Good game. Give me.
My dad said, man, what's this go for? I'm just paying 37 cents.
Yeah, they would.
You know, a lot of people don't.
Oh, I do. I don't remember. I don't remember.
I take a few dollars.
I had like, we could go to Columbus and back on one.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Then we jumped to 391.
Somewhere over that direction.
I want to see it before you go.
Okay.
Close to Governor to be the one. Like you and I. Also close to the others. What I want to do, I know it's election coming up and they're preoccupied with that. They're probably not doing it. But I want to do it. I want to so my child's on the side. I want to talk to you.
That would be fantastic.
Because I'm because I know them.
Exactly.
And same thing with stipends.
Oh, that would be good.
So anyway, something else. We got stuck with this water tank thing, and I had canceled that. They still put it on there.
Yeah, they did, and that's. I can remember that they pushed that through, and it was something. Yeah, and
you can blame Joe or whatever, but he was following advice of the engineers.
Yeah, it was. It's wrong, you know. But there won't be any more. That water tank that design is the last piece of it.
There's $1 million.
Yeah, well, that. And what was horrible is when Bill first took office, and comes IBI, they wanted to build the water tower. They wanted us to take out another loan. But they did kick them out.
My theory is we have one water tower, and we've always had one water tower. We don't have that much community use of that one water tower. That's right. 40-some years.
That's right. We don't have a big increase in usage, so I'm not worried about the water tower right now. Why worry? I mean, the one is supporting the community. You know, there's still